When I reviewed the Flare espresso maker, a few of you left comments asking about reviewing the ROK espresso maker. Now, before I'd even published the Flare review, coincidentally, Patrick, who is the man behind the ROK espresso maker, he got in touch, based in London, office here, and asked if I wanted to come by, maybe look at a unit, maybe review one. So I did. I went by the offices, we had a chat, and I agreed to take away a review unit on the condition that I would get to say the truth, how I honestly felt about it. And that's what we're doing. So I haven't paid for this. This is just on loan, but it is super interesting. Now, the ROK has been around for a while, like 20 plus years, and this is the first really big update. Now, Patrick did say something that I thought was just fantastic, which is the updates to this maker can be retrofitted as a kit onto the first gen ROK espresso makers. So from the beginning, I have to admit, he had me on side. That kind of approach as a manufacturer, I really have a lot of respect for. So I thought that was super cool. And this is called the GC, which is short, I think, for glass composite, which refers to the new materials you see in the top of the maker here. And that's the part you look to change. They've also changed the piston piece. They've made the actual piston narrower, meaning you drive much higher pressures through that piston. Now, along with that, he did also let me have a look and a play with the new hand grinder that they have coming out. Which is really quite interesting. This is a hand grinder built for espresso, and there's some things about it that I think are actually very clever when it comes to grinding for espresso. And I'll start here. So what you get here, you get a little cup for weighing the beans and then for grinding into, with a little spout for dispensing into your portafilter. And then underneath here, at the bottom here, you can see, this is where you adjust the grind. So you would twist, there's little clicks for grind settings. And again, it is built to go alongside this, so it's built to go really pretty fine. Now, if you've tried to grind for espresso on a hand grinder, you'll know that grinding like that is incredibly hard work. And the solution is actually just to have a much longer lever arm to allow more lever force and be able to do that. So this is actually a really quite nice design to have the lever on the side, a table mounted unit, and to really have like a lot of travel here. So that actually grinding for espresso is physically not that demanding at all. There's a very simple gear here to allow a vertical drive shaft to drive a metal conical burr set in here. And I know a lot of people in espresso really have come to prefer flat burr profiles, but conical burrs just allow you a much larger cutting area in a smaller footprint, which is why they're so popular in things like hand grinders. Just it really gives you a lot more cutting surface in that small space. So the flow of using this thing is you're going to grind here, you're going to weigh your beans, you're going to grind them. We'll do that in a second. And then into the little portafilter in here, pour your water in the top, lift the arms up, push them down, and then you're making coffee. So as a workflow, not too fiddly. Well, let's go on and make a shot. And now we grind. So even though I'm sat at what isn't a great angle for doing this, that actually physically wasn't particularly difficult to do. And I wasn't working super quick, but it felt pretty easy. And actually in the unit, if you look inside, there's a little sort of a metal finger to help kind of feed and push beans down into the burr set, acting almost like an auger, just to sort of keep it nice and even and uniform. The grounds out of this thing are surprisingly fluffy and uniform looking. I was actually really pretty impressed by the grounds coming out of this thing. You can use it for filter coffee if you want to. It'll obviously grind much faster, and you just need to move the burr adjuster, I think, about 1.5 full rotations coarser to get like a filter coffee ground. But I haven't tested it at that. That was just what Patrick told me he'd had some success with. However, at Espresso, I'm pretty impressed. Now on to the ROK espresso maker. Now you can get a standard portafilter. The little plastic portafilter spouts that come with this that fit on the handle, they just clip on very easily, which is good. I think they know most people would probably just want to brew a double, so they're not going to use them. And they do feel just a little bit delicate, like I'd break them quite easily, but they clip on and off very easily, and that's kind of a nice little extra, I guess. They do naked portafilters as well, if you want that in your life, which is kind of fun. So the challenge of any espresso machine that doesn't have a heating element in it, where you're going to add hot water to it, is making sure that the machine doesn't steal that heat before the water hits the coffee. And that's true of just about any one of these kind of units, and this is true here. So you really, really, really want to make sure that you've preheated your portafilter as well as the unit itself. It's probably easiest to do those two things together. Don't put water in this and lift the arms up without a portafilter being in place, otherwise you'll just make a mess. So what I would typically do is get some hot water into this and kind of pull a blank shot to try and get some heat into the unit before I add my coffee and before I pull a shot. Now, if you're used to using espresso machines a lot, there's one little thing that may throw you. Most espresso machines lock in from left to center. This doesn't. This locks in from right to center. So that'll catch you out the first time if you're not used to it this way. So right now, let's just do a little preheat. So boiling water in. So now we're rinsed, preheated. You could get this hotter probably if you soaked it in a little hot water. That wouldn't be a bad thing to get it to maximum temperature. I guess one complaint I have is that this cup can be a little messy in the dispensing of grounds into the portafilter. They are very fluffy, which is good, but it just means it's quite easy for it to be messy. With some grinders like the EK43 in cafes, you'll see them using some sort of dosing tool, and I think actually something like that for this could be quite useful. So they did send me a tamper with this. It is very heavy, actually, for its size, which is impressive. It is just, for me, a little bit small, if I'm honest. I could do with just a little bit more width, so you have to do like a couple of additional sort of side wall tamps just to catch everything. All right, we're locked in. Now, you really want to get your water straight off the boil, right? Don't let it sit around. You're going to lose temperature. So as hot as you possibly can get it gave me the best results. Now, you can obviously filter different levels depending on how much you want. This much water definitely was more than I would need. So if you raise this up now, you'll begin pre-infusion. And I had best results with at least 15 seconds of pre-infusion, just to help up the extraction a little bit. And then we press. Now at this point, I don't necessarily want more liquid in the cup, but there is still some liquid in the brewer itself. And I learned the hard way that what you don't want to do is just take the portafilter out now, because it will be messy, right? So if your espresso is the size that you want it, and typically I was brewing 16 grams of coffee to about 40 grams of liquid espresso, so a reasonably long shot, but that way I kind of hit the extractions that I wanted to. Once you've enjoyed your coffee, either bring the cup back and just give it a final squeeze through, just to make sure you've pushed all liquid out, and it just makes knocking out the puck afterwards much cleaner and easier. And so once you've pushed out all the water, what you're left with is really a very dry cake, very easy to clean up, knock out. So that's definitely worth making sure you've done completely. So how's the coffee, you ask? Well, the coffees I've had from here have been pretty good. Getting your extraction up is definitely a key to this, and that means heat management first and foremost. You can grind really pretty fine for this thing. Getting everything as hot as you possibly can with this is definitely my #1 priority. And it'll also mean typically the second or third shot out of it will probably be better than the very first. But often you only want to make one first thing in the morning. So spend the time getting it as hot as you can. Now, I would recommend brewing on scales if you can. It's how I would brew most espresso in most places, and I feel like getting an accurate idea of how much liquid you've produced is definitely useful. The shape and design of this make that pretty easy to fit scales underneath here, and that was definitely not a problem for me in using it. So let's wrap this up into what I like and maybe what I like less. The pros and the cons. Let's start with the grinder. I think the design is great for an espresso hand grinder. It's definitely grinding fine enough. The grind is really quite even. The long lever arm on here is a good thing, and it's good to use. It's pretty easy to use. I have no real complaints about it. It is, in the world of hand grinders, expensive, but not absurdly expensive. So I think it's about 159, 169 pounds. It's actually a little bit more than the espresso maker, but it is well built, it is sturdy, and they've thought it through from a usability perspective for grinding very fine. So that I think is good. I don't love the little cup for dosing out of, but there's probably another solution to that anyway. As for the espresso maker, things I like, it's compact, it works well. You're definitely hitting high pressures. By having a narrower brew chamber than normal, it means that the force exerted per square inch means that actually pushing with only 16 or 17 kilos of force will give you 9 bars of pressure inside the brew chamber. So that's a kind of nice, smart thing. It does make good tasting coffee on the condition that you manage the heat of this unit. You definitely need to get it as hot as you can before using it, especially if you like slightly lighter roasts in your espresso. With darker roasts, that may be just less of an issue. You can use this to make much larger espressos than I have done, though I don't particularly enjoy those. That's kind of just my thing. I really preferred shots that were about 1 full piston of water, which was usually just about 40 grams out, depending on how long you left it to pre-infuse for. And again, pre-infusion is definitely useful, and having total manual control of that is a good thing. I'd like some more guidance on the inside of this to know where my fill level is, so that if I have a preferred water amount, I can sort of dial in that rather than trying to fill it completely or fill it so it's about 1 centimeter from the top. A little extra here would be nice, though I do like this new material they're using here. I think it's a great improvement on their existing maker. I think it's 149 pounds. I think it's well built, start to finish. It can be a little messy, but actually you can just pick this thing up and run it under the tap if you want to. So, you know, the single unit construction is nice. I think it's well designed, it's thoughtful, it can make nice espresso. Again, like most of these type of units, it's a little bit of extra work, and it's up to you if that's something you're willing to incorporate into your morning routine, as lots of people are, or actually if you'd like the convenience of an element, of a pump, of the extras that come with a good home espresso machine. Or actually, if you just want something easy, convenient, oddly kind of zen to use. It's quite satisfying to push this thing down. There's no doubt that's kind of pleasurable. But that's it. That's the ROC. That's how I feel about that. I think it's broadly available about now. I think it's just about released now. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you've got one of the old ones, if you've got one of the new ones, let me know. Are you using it to make espresso at home still? How are your shots? What's your best technique? What works for you? I'd be really interested to hear it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.